Esteban's life was one of privilege and comfort, but his rebellious spirit often clashed with his father's strict expectations. When his father decided to teach him a lesson by forcing him to marry a homeless woman, Esteban didn't react as expected. What started as a punishment quickly turned into a journey of self-discovery and unexpected love. Agatha, the woman who entered his life under such unusual circumstances, was more than she seemed. Her resilience and wisdom began to change Esteban, opening his eyes to a world beyond his own. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, they found common ground in their struggles and dreams. As they navigated their new life together, Esteban matured, realizing the true value of responsibility and love. But just as their bond deepened, they faced challenges that tested their relationship and their strength. In the end, their love prevailed, transforming both their lives in ways they never imagined. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The father, in a moment of severe frustration, decided to impose a harsh lesson on his son, Esteban, by demanding that he marry a homeless woman, a punishment he thought would shock his son into compliance. Yet, he never anticipated the depth of Esteban's response to such an extreme decision. At the break of dawn, Esteban awoke, his head throbbing with unbearable pain as if his skull were caught in a relentless vice. Groaning in agony, he attempted to soothe the pounding by closing his eyes, hoping for the sweet relief of sleep to reclaim him. But just as he was on the brink of drifting off, the piercing ring of his phone shattered the fragile silence, jolting him back to the harsh reality. Barely able to muster the will to answer, Esteban grabbed the phone, his voice strained as he uttered, "Hello." On the other end, a familiar voice chirped, "I'm here. What's going on, buddy? How are you holding up?" With a heavy sigh, Esteban replied, "Not great. We went way overboard with the drinks last night. I'm so exhausted, I can hardly move. What about you, Esteban? Why are you up so early?" "I've got a class at the university, and I can't afford to miss it. Unlike your parents, mine won't just cover everything," Esteban explained with a mix of bitterness and resignation. "I get it," his friend said understandingly. "Well, take care. I'll try to get some more rest." As he ended the call, Esteban lay back, his mouth parched, thirst gnawing at him. But the overwhelming fatigue kept him rooted to the spot. He knew his father was still in the house, and the thought of facing him in this disheveled state filled Esteban with dread. His father, rarely home and always consumed by work, had never been a present figure in his life. The man who believed money could solve all problems barely spoke to his wife and had played only a distant role in Esteban's upbringing. It wasn't until nearly 2 in the afternoon that Esteban finally dragged himself out of bed, driven by a desperate need to quench his thirst. He quietly made his way to the kitchen, where Mrs. Silva, the ever-diligent family cook, was busy at the stove. Upon seeing him, she immediately went to the refrigerator, handing him a drink with a kind smile. "Here, start your day with this. Drink up, take a shower, and I'll have something ready for you to eat," she offered warmly. "Thanks, Mrs. Silva. Is anyone else home?" Esteban asked, hoping to avoid his father's disapproving gaze. "Yes, your mother is here, but your father left early this morning," she informed him. After a revitalizing shower and a meal prepared by Mrs. Silva, Esteban ventured to see his mother, Mrs. Barros, who was diligently working on the computer in his father's office. She greeted him with a gentle smile. "Hello, my dear. I noticed you skipped university again. Please don't let your father down anymore. He was very upset yesterday, even threatening to kick you out or revoke your privileges." Esteban, feeling the weight of his father's expectations, replied, "Mom, if he does that, he'll regret it. He insists I study mathematics, but it's not my passion. He needs to understand that." His mother, always the voice of reason, responded, "Esteban, you're so smart. You need to recognize how important higher education is in today's world. We have the means to support you, but we won't be here forever. What do you plan to do?" Esteban smiled at her, trying to ease her concerns. "Mom, you've always said I'm intelligent. I'll find my path, I promise." His mind wandered to the past, recalling how his parents had met at university. His mother had always been the only one who could soften his father's rigid demeanor. Around her, his father became more tender, his stern voice softened, and he even managed to smile. A stark contrast to the man feared by his colleagues for his unyielding demands for excellence. Mr. Barros ran a large construction company with branches spread across several locations, often traveling to personally oversee his team's performance. His wife would accompany him on these trips, leaving a young Esteban behind with a nanny. As he grew older, Esteban occasionally traveled with them, though he found the trips tedious. His life only gained excitement once he finished his basic studies and entered university, where he immersed himself in a world of parties, friends, and constant entertainment. He couldn't comprehend his father's relentless dedication to work. One day, as Esteban was leaving, his mother mentioned, "I'm heading to Martin's house to take some notes for my studies, just as you always advise. I don't want to disappoint Dad." She added, "By the way, your father took your car keys. We've been getting a lot of fines lately, and if you don't drive responsibly, you might have to get used to walking." This infuriated Esteban. "Mom, seriously? Dad has a fortune, and he takes away the car over a few minor infractions. He built his wealth through hard work and knows how to manage it. You'll see that spending recklessly isn't wise once you start earning your own money." Frustrated, Esteban slammed the door behind him. He knew he shouldn't have lashed out at his mother, but the thought of being without his car was unbearable. As he stormed toward the garage, he spotted Mr. Tomas, the loyal mechanic and gardener. "Mr. Tomas, do you happen to have a spare key for my car? I always keep spares in case you lose yours. Did you misplace it?" "Yeah. I've been looking everywhere and can't find it. Give me a moment. I'll get it for you," Tomas said, and soon handed him the key to his BMW. "Thank you so much, Mr. Tomas. You've saved me," Esteban said, relief washing over him. As he got into the car, Esteban couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. His father had tried to punish him, but the attempt had failed. Smirking to himself, he thought that maybe attending university for a few days would keep his father off his back, at least for a while. With that in mind, he sped off toward his friend Martin's house, ready to face the day on his terms. Esteban, fueled by frustration, slammed the door with a force that echoed through the house. He knew deep down that his mother didn't deserve to bear the brunt of his anger, but his emotions were overwhelming, and he couldn't hold back. "Why did I have to lash out like that? It's so difficult being without my car," he muttered to himself as he stormed toward the garage. As he approached, he spotted Mr. Tomas, the ever-loyal mechanic and gardener who had always been there for him. "Mr. Tomas, do you happen to have a spare key for my car?" Esteban asked, desperation tinged in his voice. "Of course, I always keep spare keys for your cars in case you lose yours. Did you misplace it?" Mr. Tomas replied with his usual calm demeanor. "Yes, I've been searching everywhere and can't seem to find it," Esteban admitted, his frustration still simmering. "Hold on a moment, I'll get it for you," said Mr. Tomas as he disappeared briefly, returning with the spare key to Esteban's sleek BMW. "Thank you so much, Mr. Tomas. You've saved me from a tough spot," Esteban said, feeling a wave of relief wash over him as he took the key. Settling into the driver's seat, Esteban felt a sense of triumph. His father's attempt to punish him had been thwarted, and he couldn't help but chuckle to himself. "Maybe I should go to university for a few days, just to keep Dad off my back," he thought, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. With that decision made, he revved the engine and sped off towards Martin's house. Martin, who lived on the far side of the city, often stayed at a friend's place due to the distance. Despite the inconvenience, Martin never missed a class. Education was something he valued deeply. As Esteban pulled up, he called out, "Hey, are you home? If not, I'm downstairs. Bring the notes. My dad is really upset, and I need to calm him down." Martin quickly approached the car, handing over a stack of notebooks. "You can head out now, but what's your plan? This is your last year at university. You can't waste all 4 years like this. If you don't show up soon, he'll probably threaten to kick you out," Martin warned. "I'll go. I can't cross my dad now. Why don't you come to study at my place? I can help you catch up on anything you've missed," Esteban suggested. "All right, but I need to be back before dark. My mom caught me drunk last night, and thankfully she didn't tell my dad, or I'd be in deep trouble," Martin replied with a sigh. For the next 2 days, Esteban attended classes, but soon enough, the allure of night races with his friends drew him back into his old habits. The thrill of speeding through the city, pushing boundaries, made him feel alive and free. But that freedom came crashing down one night when the police set up a roadblock, and Esteban found himself detained. Hours later, his father arrived at the station, his eyes cold and stern. "I was hesitant to get you out of here," his father said in a low, controlled voice. "I think you should have stayed here for 2 weeks to reflect on your actions. Your mother insisted on getting you out." Esteban kept his mouth shut, knowing that arguing would only make things worse. Once they were back home, his father laid down the law. "Listen, I'm not giving you your car back. Starting tomorrow, you will focus on your studies. There's only a month left. Finish it. If I find out you're missing classes, there will be severe consequences." That night, Esteban tossed and turned, unable to sleep. His father's decision to take away his car felt like a personal attack, a deliberate attempt to strip him of his independence. As his frustration built, he vowed, "I won't go back to university. I'm an adult. I don't need to be treated like a child. I'll do things my way. My father knows how much that car means to me. He's trying to break me." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. The next morning, still seething, Esteban sought out his usual group of friends. "Hey, can I crash at your place for a while? My parents are putting too much pressure on me," he asked one of them. "Sure, but just so you know, I don't have much to offer, so you'll have to fend for yourself," his friend replied nonchalantly. Esteban checked his wallet and found only a few coins. "I'm low on cash," he admitted with a frustrated sigh. His friend chuckled at the irony. "The son of a rich man living on a budget, who would have thought? If I had a father like yours, I'd never be short on money," he said with a smirk. Esteban shot back, "You wouldn't understand. It's not easy getting money from my father." His friend shrugged. "Well, this is my house. If you're staying, you'll have to adjust." As Esteban stood there, the reality of his situation began to sink in. His friends were only around when he had money, and now, when he needed them the most, they couldn't offer much. The luxurious life he had taken for granted was slipping through his fingers, and with it, the support of those he thought were close to him. As Esteban sat in quiet contemplation, a wave of stark realization washed over him. His sense of worth seemed painfully tied to the fleeting presence of friends who only surfaced when money was in the air. Their true affection was as shallow as a mirage, vanishing the moment his wallet was empty. Meanwhile, Mr. Barros found himself ensconced in the confines of his car, lost in thought about the troubling trajectory his son had taken. The dreams he once nurtured for Esteban seemed to be slipping through his fingers. Dreams of him emerging from university with distinction, stepping into the family business with pride, embarking on a loving marriage, and building a fulfilling life. The stark contrast between his aspirations and Esteban's reality was jarring. Instead of the diligent, future-focused young man he envisioned, Esteban had become unfocused, frequently embroiled in trouble, and prone to disappearing without a trace. The sense of urgency was palpable. Something drastic had to be done to prevent Esteban from further losing his way. Amid his reflections, Mr. Barros remembered a time when his son had excelled academically, graduating high school with honors. This achievement seemed like a distant echo now, overshadowed by the drastic changes in Esteban's life. Mr. Barros's gaze drifted to his driver, who appeared to be saying something, but his words were muffled by Mr. Barros's preoccupation. He squinted, struggling to decipher the conversation. Then the driver spoke up. "Mr. Barros, My son has turned his life around. He's married now, and things are flourishing for him. He adores his wife, works diligently, and is enthusiastic about starting a family. It's like he's completely transformed. I used to feel lost, not knowing how to help him. The behavior of today's youth is often a mystery. A spark of realization ignited in Mr. Barros's mind. Marriage, he mused. That's the answer, but it must be with a respectable woman. Someone who will not just vanish. Someone who can match his complexities, perhaps even guide him with her own life experience. He recalled seeing a young woman frequently near his workplace, a familiar face among the homeless, someone who had crossed paths with Esteban in those same areas. Mr. Barros made a mental note of her appearance. She seemed well-groomed and striking, he thought. Determined, Mr. Barros decided to approach her, offering some money and seeking her assistance with his son. Leonardo, his driver, was tasked with locating her, a job that took a week of persistent effort. Just as they were on the verge of giving up, they spotted the young woman being detained by 2 police officers. Leonardo, there she is. We need to act quickly before she's taken away, Mr. Barros urged. After ensuring the young woman was safe and negotiating with the officers, they headed to Mr. Barros's office. What do you want from me? She asked with a defiant tone. I'm not one of those people you can easily control. One of those? Mr. Barros inquired, puzzled. I'm not submissive. I don't comply without question. I was detained for being near a mall where discarded food is sometimes found. When some homeless individuals tried to prevent me from taking any, a confrontation broke out. Someone reported it, and I was left behind while the others escaped. If you're offering me a job, I'll consider it, but I need to know the details. I'm no criminal. Mr. Barros observed her with growing respect. You don't seem like a criminal or an addict. You appear almost like an angel amidst our troubles. Why are you in this situation? Why aren't you in school or working? It's complicated, she murmured, her voice laden with resignation. The more Mr. Barros listened, the more he was impressed by her resilience and determination despite her dire circumstances. Why don't you share your story with me? I believe I can understand. Agatha took a deep breath and began. I was raised in an orphanage after losing my parents when I was just 5. I remember my father lifting me and my mother baking the most wonderful cherry pies. They were my whole world. After their death, no relatives stepped forward to care for me, so I was sent to an orphanage. It was a place devoid of warmth, and compassion was rare. Once, a caretaker threatened my safety and I fled. Now, I'm left without identification, a home, or opportunities, as without documents, I can neither study nor work. Moved by her story, Mr. Barros offered an unconventional proposal. Agatha, I have a special offer for you. I can help you get your documents in order, enabling you to study and work. Moreover, if you fulfill my request, I will provide you with housing, a vehicle, and financial support. What do you say? Agatha, stunned by the unexpected proposal, asked, Would I have to harm someone? No, Mr. Barros replied. Just marry my son. The offer left Agatha speechless. She pondered the possibility of escaping her current plight through this seemingly surreal opportunity. Could this be her way out of misery, or was she caught in a dreamlike scenario? As she spoke with Mr. Barros, she pinched herself, struggling to believe her situation was real. It feels like I'm living in a fantasy. Such things don't happen in real life, she said. Mr. Barros assured her with earnestness. I am serious. Provide me with your answer, and I will transform your life as promised. The following day, Agatha was presented with her official documents and a sum of money, marking the beginning of a significant change in her life. With the right resources and connections, anything is within reach, she mused, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within her. She approached Mr. and Mrs. Barros with a pressing question. How will you break the news to him? Mr. Barros assured her, That's something I'll handle. Your part is to follow my instructions carefully. Choose the course you wish to pursue, and I will ensure everything else is taken care of. I see immense potential in you. With proper training and guidance, you will achieve great things. First, we need you to undergo a medical examination. We must understand your health background before you join our family. This isn't meant to inconvenience you, but is a necessary step. Agatha nodded, her resolve firm. If that's what you need, I'll comply with your requirements. Given my circumstances, I understand the need for thoroughness. Mr. Barros continued, later you will be taken for the medical evaluation, and tomorrow we will begin implementing our plans. My son is at home, and his behavior has been problematic. He needs to be corrected, and I have warned him about taking serious measures if he doesn't change. He has so much potential but is squandering it. Despite everything, he is still my son, and I have high expectations for him. When Mr. Barros reviewed Agatha's medical report, he was astounded. She is in perfect health. She truly is remarkable. Back at home, Esteban awaited his father's return with a mixture of dread and anticipation. His father's anger and his mother's anxiety were palpable. Mrs. Barros summoned him, saying, "Let's go to the office. Your father will join us soon for a discussion. We all need to be there. Please, Esteban, approach this with respect and avoid any confrontations. He wants what's best for you." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Esteban entered the room to find his father accompanied by a striking young woman. His initial shock was quickly replaced by confusion. "Esteban, this is Agatha, your future wife," Mr. Barros announced. Esteban's eyes widened in disbelief. "You must be kidding. I don't want to get married," he exclaimed. Mrs. Barros intervened, her tone firm yet gentle. "Don't be disrespectful, Esteban. Agatha isn't the problem here." Struggling to keep his frustration in check, Esteban replied, "Why did you make this decision without consulting me? Who is she?" Mr. Barros cut him off. "Agatha, this is my wife, Mrs. Barros, and our son, Esteban. I'm exhausted by your irresponsible behavior. It's time for you to start a family and shoulder some responsibilities. Agatha is still studying, and you will begin studying and working as well." Esteban, his frustration simmering, retorted, "I don't want her here," before storming out of the office. Agatha, feeling the sting of Esteban's rejection, faced Mrs. Barros with resolve. "I'm sorry, but I have no intention of sleeping with your son," she said. Mrs. Barros reassured her, "I'm not asking you to do that. I simply want you to guide him firmly and show him that there are alternative ways of living. He's become complacent in his current routine and needs to see that change is possible." Agatha promised, "I'll do my best." Later, Agatha approached Esteban's room where he was lounging and listening to music. He pretended not to notice her, but Agatha, undeterred, removed his headphones. "You're trying to project an image, but you listen to this kind of music? Just so you know, this situation isn't ideal for me. I prefer someone with more grit, not someone so accustomed to luxury. And is this the only kind of music you enjoy?" she inquired. Esteban, taken aback but slightly offended, replied, "Yes, and I'm passionate about cars. I love driving." "Driving, seriously? Don't make me laugh. Do you even know what it's like to truly race a car?" Agatha retorted, "Of course, it's my greatest passion. Do you doubt it? Come on, I'll show you," Esteban challenged. "All right, impress me. But here's the deal. If you can prove you're a skilled driver, I'll pack my bags and leave this house. If you can't, you'll enroll in university tomorrow," Agatha proposed, extending her hand. Esteban shook her hand firmly, replying, "Deal." The night drive around the city was a thrilling experience for both Agatha and Esteban. Despite his risky maneuvers, Agatha remained calm, even appearing bored. "It's just as I imagined," she remarked with a hint of challenge. "Now let me show you how it's done. Will you let me drive, or do you want to take control?" she teased. Esteban, eager to see what Agatha could do, agreed. All right, get in and show me. I hope you can get us back before dawn." Agatha laughed heartily as she took the wheel. With a smooth shift of gears, she accelerated, and the car surged forward. Esteban was pushed back into his seat, gripping the handle tightly, his eyes fixed on the road in awe. Agatha's driving was nothing short of spectacular, and Esteban was amazed by her skill, which he had only previously witnessed in movies. When they returned home, Esteban was visibly impressed. "Hey Agatha, how about we go dancing tomorrow? I can introduce you to my friends," he suggested. Agatha shook her head with a smile. "I have more exciting plans. Besides, we have a deal. We should rest. We have classes tomorrow." A month later, Mr. Barros noticed something unusual. His son was waiting for Agatha so they could head to class together. Thanks to Mr. Barros's connections, Agatha had been accepted into a mathematics program, even though she was nearly finished with her studies. "The power of money can work wonders," Mr. Barros remarked. "But I believe you'll do well. By the way, where did you gain such wisdom?" Agatha replied with a touch of sadness. "I didn't mention it, but while I was in the orphanage, we had excellent teachers. What I learned there has served me well. My path changed when someone intervened, but that person was no longer around. He won't fit in well among honest people." Mr. Barros smiled knowingly. Life has a way of teaching us valuable lessons. Esteban was beginning to see Agatha in a new light. The courage and boldness she exhibited were hard to reconcile with her delicate appearance. Her driving skills had impressed him, and he was starting to understand the depth of her character. After classes, he waited for Agatha so they could return home together. As they worked on their studies, he noticed how dedicated she was to helping him. Agatha, in turn, promised to teach him driving tricks if he assisted her with her studies. At sunset, Agatha took Esteban to a stunning spot he had never seen before. As they arrived, she got out of the car and perched on the hood. "Look," she said. "The sunset from here is breathtaking. My father used to bring me here when I was little. We'd spend hours admiring it." Esteban, captivated by the view, asked, "Do you remember everything about him?" "Yes," Agatha said softly. "Driving is in my blood. My father was a driver, and he hoped to pass on all his knowledge to me. But he left and I was left alone. I went to an orphanage, and when I was 17 I met Ricardo, who taught me to drive. He was a great friend. After he passed away, life was tough, but I found kindness along the way. I'm resilient. Life has tested me, but I keep going." Esteban felt a pang of humility. Her resilience and depth of experience contrasted sharply with his own sheltered life. "And you, Esteban?" Agatha asked. He hesitated, feeling inadequate compared to her strength and resolve. "I think I need to grow up and take responsibility. Agatha, we should head home. It's getting late, and we have classes early tomorrow," Esteban suggested. As time passed, Esteban excelled in his studies and earned his diploma, influenced by Agatha's dedication. They celebrated their success at the spot where Agatha first showed him the sunset. "Thanks, Agatha," Esteban said, his gratitude evident. "I feel like I've changed. I thought I had many friends, but once I stopped funding their whims, they disappeared. It's clear now they wanted my father's money, not my friendship. I want to start working just like my father suggested. I'll begin from the bottom and take responsibility. I need to provide for us while you continue your studies." Agatha smiled warmly at him, touched by his growth. Despite their different backgrounds, Esteban had proven himself to be a wonderful person. His commitment to the family business and his dedication to Agatha, whom he loved deeply, showed that he was ready to build a future together. Esteban had noticed how the relationship between Agatha and his mother, Mrs. Barros, had grown warmer. Mrs. Barros began to see Agatha almost as a daughter, and they spent much of their time together, both during work and leisure. One day, Mrs. Barros commented on her computer skills. "It turns out you're quite handy with computers. I thought we'd need to call a technician. I mentioned it to my husband, but he's always so busy." "It wasn't anything major, just a virus," Mrs. Barros replied with a smile. "I ran some software, and now it's all fixed. If it had been something else, I might not have been able to handle it." Later, as they prepared to go shopping, Mrs. Barros asked Agatha to accompany her. "Agatha, I'm heading out to buy some things. Would you come with me? I love your company. You remind me of my mother. Agatha's eyes welled up with tears. She quickly wiped them away, apologizing. I'm sorry if I upset you. I didn't mean to. Mrs. Barros looked at her with affection. Don't worry, dear. We're glad you're here. We consider you a daughter. As they shopped together, Mrs. Barros spoke from the heart. Agatha, you could never hurt me. Your words touched my heart. I understand your situation well because Mr. Barros has shared a lot about you. I'm grateful to him for changing my life. He influenced you and you, in turn, have influenced our son. I can't tell you how grateful I am for the peace and harmony you've brought into our home. My worries have eased, and Mr. Barros is happier and more communicative. Esteban and you are inseparable now, always discussing things. It's clear he seeks advice from you and his wonderful father. Thank you for everything. As the holidays passed, Agatha enrolled in university, while Esteban continued to advance in his career. Mr. Barros, proud of his son's progress, was unaware that much of Esteban's motivation stemmed from Agatha. A German friend of Mr. Barros visited, bringing a proposal for a profitable business. Have you considered arranging a marriage for your son? He suggested. My daughter is ready to marry, and we could merge our companies. The idea seemed promising. She's in Germany. We could arrange a meeting in 2 or 3 years and discuss marriage. Mr. Barros then sent Esteban on a business trip and called Agatha. Agatha, your services are no longer needed. You've done wonders for my son and helped him mature. Here's an address for you. I bought an apartment for you as promised. It's fully furnished, and you've received your payment. Tomorrow you can leave. When Agatha entered the apartment, tears filled her eyes. Despite having a place of her own and progressing in her education, she felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness. Her love for Esteban was so deep that it consumed her thoughts, making it hard to leave. Before she departed, Esteban proposed, affirming his love and his desire for her to stay by his side. That night, while heading to the kitchen for tea, Agatha overheard Mr. Barros and Mrs. Barros arguing. Why not arrange the marriage of our children? It seems like a great opportunity for our heir. Esteban agrees. You should have discussed this with him first. He's astute and would recognize the benefits. He accepted my marriage proposal knowing the advantages. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Mrs. Barros responded sharply. So you're suggesting that love is secondary to agreements? What about Agatha? She's leaving tomorrow as planned. I've taken care of everything, her apartment, her payment. I'll help her find a job after she finishes her education. She's fulfilled her part. I feel for her. Why did everything go as planned? She should be fine. Sometimes you act without sensitivity. You seem to view people as mere objects, using them and then discarding them. That's no way to live. The conversation shifted, but Agatha could no longer focus on it. Overwhelmed, she returned to her space and cried. Despite everything being in order, she felt unbalanced and unsure. That night, she spent hours organizing her things, determined not to forget anything. Agatha decided not to continue her university studies and instead moved into her new apartment. Now, she needed to navigate her way to the institute without Esteban's help, as he had always accompanied her before. Agatha was overjoyed with her new apartment. The space, complete with a cozy room, a hallway, a well-equipped bathroom, and a spacious kitchen, was a testament to a fresh start. The furniture was new and stylish, reflecting a subtle elegance that matched her taste. As she unpacked her belongings, carefully placing them into the cabinets and arranging her books on the shelves, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Opening the refrigerator, she found it empty and off. She decided to turn it on and planned a trip to the nearby supermarket to stock up on essentials. As she walked through the aisles, a pang of sadness hit her. She remembered a recent shopping trip with Mrs. Barros and the warmth of their time together. The thought of not saying a proper goodbye made her heart ache, knowing that if she had, it would have brought tears to her eyes. Meanwhile, Esteban returned home, his heart heavy with concern. He headed straight for Agatha's room, only to find it empty. Her belongings, books, and notes were all gone. His calls to her went unanswered, and her phone was perpetually off. Disturbed and frustrated, he sought his father, who was in his office with an old acquaintance, Mr. Cardozo. Mr. Cardozo, a frequent visitor, greeted Esteban warmly, acknowledging the young man's recent achievements. Realizing that Mr. Barros wasn't alone, Mr. Cardozo mentioned that he had heard excellent things about Esteban from his father. Seeing an opportunity, he excused himself to pick up his family from the airport, leaving Esteban and his father alone. Esteban took a deep breath, trying to maintain his composure. "Dad, where is Agatha? I noticed her things aren't here." Mr. Barros, without missing a beat, replied, "Let her go, son. She did what she had to do, and now she's free. I suggest you pay attention to what I have to propose. It will be beneficial for us." Esteban was bewildered. "What mission are you talking about? I noticed you had an intention when you brought her here. She came from an orphanage and has no family. She isn't part of our circle. I suggest you reconsider." Mr. Barros leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "I have an interesting opportunity. How about marrying Clara? Do you remember her? She visited us when she was a child, and now she's become a beautiful woman." Esteban's frustration boiled over. "Dad, forget about that idea. I'm not getting married again. If you don't remember, let me remind you, you already arranged a marriage for me." With a resigned sigh, Esteban turned on his heel and left the office, leaving his father looking perplexed and thoughtful. Meanwhile, at Agatha's new apartment, the doorbell rang. With a mix of curiosity and trepidation, she went to answer it. To her astonishment, there stood Esteban, holding a bouquet of roses. His presence brought an immediate surge of emotion. "If you thought you could escape, you're wrong. You won't get away," Esteban said, a smile tugging at his lips. "Now let's go. It's time to go back." Agatha, overwhelmed by a whirlwind of feelings, embraced him tightly. She had been dreading this moment, but the sight of him, with his familiar warmth and love, gave her a profound sense of relief. Esteban's decision to find her and bring her back spoke volumes about his commitment. As they returned to his home, Agatha felt a renewed sense of belonging. The drive was filled with shared glances and unspoken understanding. The city lights blurred past them, a symbol of the journey they had taken together and the one they were about to embark upon. Back at the Barros residence, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Esteban's mother, Mrs. Barros, had been reflecting on the changes Agatha had brought to their lives. She had grown to see Agatha not just as a friend but as a daughter. Their bond had deepened over time, with Mrs. Barros appreciating Agatha's presence and the harmony she had helped restore in their home. "Agatha, you've done so much for us," Mrs. Barros said with heartfelt gratitude. "Your kindness and support have made a huge difference. You've brought peace and joy into our lives. I consider you a part of this family." Agatha smiled through her tears, touched by Mrs. Barros' words. The warmth and acceptance she had found in this family were more than she had ever hoped for. In the following days, Esteban and Agatha settled back into their routines, their bond stronger than ever. Esteban's dedication to Agatha and his commitment to their future together solidified their relationship. The challenges they had faced only served to deepen their love and respect for one another. Esteban continued to excel in his work, driven by the motivation Agatha had inspired in him. His father's earlier proposal about marrying Clara was forgotten as Esteban focused on his future with Agatha. The prospect of a new beginning with her filled him with optimism and joy. Agatha, for her part, embraced her role in the family and continued to pursue her studies with renewed vigor. The support and love she received from Esteban and his family fueled her determination to succeed. Together, they faced the world with a renewed sense of purpose, their love and commitment guiding them through every challenge. Their journey was a testament to the strength of their bond and the power of love to overcome obstacles. In each other, they found a partner, a friend, and a family, ready to face whatever the future held. As we wrap up this heartfelt journey with Agatha and Esteban, we've witnessed the transformative power of love, commitment, and family. From overcoming personal struggles to finding true companionship, their story reminds us of the profound impact that understanding, kindness, and genuine connection can have on our lives. We hope you've taken away valuable lessons from Agatha and Esteban's experiences. What insights have you gained from their story? Is there something specific you've learned that you plan to bring into your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you're inspired to practice moving forward. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you meaningful stories and insights. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.